The medical bay of the Zephyrian diplomatic vessel Harmony's Edge hummed with the soft blue glow of advanced healing technology. Dr. Kelleth adjusted her primary optical sensors, watching the readouts cascade across her neural interface as the medical scanner completed its analysis of their unexpected patient. The numbers made no sense. "Run the scan again," she commanded her assistant, Dr. Vorth, whose forearms worked frantically across the control interfaces. "There must be an error in the calibration." "I've run it 12 times, Dr. Vorth replied, his voice carrying the distinctive harmonic undertones of anxiety that characterized his species. "The results are consistent." Kelleth's breathing apparatus fluttered nervously as she stared at the biological readout hovering in the air before them. 17 distinct bone fractures. 3 cracked ribs, a hairline fracture in the left femur, multiple stress fractures throughout the vertebral column, and damage to the cranial structure that should have resulted in immediate neural shutdown. Yet their patient sat casually on the examination table, swinging his legs like a youngling waiting for a sweet treat. The human Marcus Chen, according to the identification beacon they'd retrieved from his damaged escape pod, smiled at them with what their cultural database indicated was a friendly expression. His species was new to the Galactic Medical Consortium, having only recently achieved faster-than-light travel. This was Kelleth's first encounter with one of their kind, and nothing in the preliminary biological reports had prepared her for this. "Is everything all right, Doc?" Marcus asked, his voice carrying a casual warmth that seemed completely at odds with his medical condition. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Kelleth exchanged glances with Vorth. The translation matrix struggled with the human idiom, but the meaning was clear enough. She gathered her composure, drawing upon years of medical training across dozens of species. "Mr. Chen," she began, her voice taking on the careful, measured tone reserved for delivering serious diagnoses, "I'm afraid the results of your scan indicate severe trauma. We've detected 17 separate bone fractures throughout your skeletal structure. Some of these injuries appear to be recent, sustained during your pod's emergency landing, while others show signs of having been inadequately healed over extended periods." She paused, waiting for the inevitable reaction. In her experience, species typically responded to such news with shock, denial, or immediate panic. The Altarians would begin their ritual death songs. The crystalline Vex would shatter into defensive fragments. Even the stoic Braxons would emit their characteristic distress pheromones. Marcus tilted his head slightly, processing the information. Then, he shrugged. "Oh, that," he said, as if she'd informed him of a minor inconvenience. "Yeah, I figured I'd probably cracked a few things in the crash. The pod's artificial gravity failed about 30 seconds before impact. I got bounced around pretty good." Kelleth's optical sensors dilated in disbelief. "Mr. Chen, I don't think you understand the severity. I've had worse," Marcus interrupted, his expression remaining remarkably serene. "Remember that time on Kepler 442b when I fell into that canyon? Now that was a real mess. Took the medical team 3 days just to catalog all the breaks." The silence that followed was so complete that even the ship's atmospheric recyclers seemed to pause. Vorth's secondary arms had frozen mid-gesture, and Kelleth could feel her diagnostic equipment recalibrating automatically, as if the machines themselves refused to accept what they were processing. "You've had worse?" Vorth finally managed, his harmonic undertones shifting to something approaching disbelief. "Oh yeah," Marcus said, apparently warming to the subject. "Occupational hazard of being a xenoarchaeologist. You'd be amazed how often ancient alien structures try to kill you. There was this tomb on Proxima Centauri C, beautiful Forerunner architecture, really gorgeous stonework, but the whole place was basically one giant trap. Pressure plates everywhere." He gestured casually with his left arm, seemingly oblivious to the fact that Kelleth's scanners were detecting microfractures throughout the radius and ulna. "I made it about halfway through before the floor gave out. Fell maybe 60 feet onto a pile of razor-sharp crystal formations. Broke my back in 4 places, shattered my pelvis, and punctured a lung." Kelleth's breathing apparatus began cycling rapidly. In her medical experience, injuries of that magnitude were invariably fatal. The few survivors typically required complete biological reconstruction, assuming their species possessed the technology. Most simply died. "How did you survive?" she whispered. Marcus scratched his chin thoughtfully. Well, it was touch and go for a while. Lucky for me, my research partner Sarah was topside with the emergency medical kit. She managed to jury-rig a spine stabilizer out of survey equipment and got me back to the ship. Spent 2 months in the regeneration tank, but I was back on my feet eventually. Regeneration tank? Vorth interjected. Your species possesses advanced cellular reconstruction technology? What? Oh, no. Marcus laughed, a sound that their cultural database indicated was associated with amusement rather than distress. Nothing that fancy. Just good old-fashioned medical science. Bone cement, titanium rods, synthetic tissue grafts. The docs did a great job, though I do get a bit creaky when it rains. Keleth felt her worldview shifting in ways that defied her scientific training. The human was describing a level of trauma that would kill most known species, followed by what sounded like primitive medical intervention that should have left him permanently disabled. Yet he sat before her, not only alive but apparently functional enough to continue what sounded like an extremely dangerous profession. Mr. Chen, she said slowly, perhaps you could help us understand something. According to our scans, you have evidence of multiple previous injuries. Broken bones that have healed, scar tissue, signs of surgical intervention. Our medical database indicates that humans have only recently achieved interstellar travel. How long have you been engaging in these dangerous activities? Marcus considered the question seriously. Let's see, I started doing fieldwork about 15 years ago, right after I finished my doctorate. Before that, I was just your average risk-taking college student. Average? Keleth's voice had taken on a higher harmonic frequency that indicated severe stress. Well, maybe a bit above average, Marcus admitted. I did a lot of extreme sports. Rock climbing, base jumping, that sort of thing. Broke my first bone when I was 7, fell out of a tree trying to rescue my cat. Snapped my wrist clean through. He held up his right hand, flexing his fingers. Healed up fine, though. Kids are pretty resilient. Vorth's forearms had begun trembling slightly. You're telling us that your species regularly engages in activities that result in serious injury, for entertainment? Not regularly, Marcus corrected. I mean, most people are pretty careful. But, yeah, humans tend to push boundaries. It's kind of our thing. Keleth's diagnostic equipment had been running continuous scans throughout the conversation, and the results were becoming increasingly difficult to reconcile with known xenobiology. The human's bone density was approximately 30% higher than initial projections had suggested. His muscle fiber composition showed unusual redundancy patterns. Most remarkably, his pain receptors seemed to be operating at a significantly reduced sensitivity level compared to baseline mammalian species. Mr. Chen, she said carefully, would you mind if we conducted a more comprehensive analysis? Your physiology is proving to be quite different from our initial projections. Sure thing, document whatever you need. Marcus settled back against the examination table. Just try not to find anything too weird. The last time I had a full medical workup, the physician filed a request to have me classified as a new subspecies. As Keleth initiated the deep tissue scanners, she found herself wondering if perhaps the human wasn't entirely wrong about that classification. The preliminary readings were already showing bone structures that seemed designed for repeated trauma and repair, cardiovascular systems operating with remarkable efficiency despite obvious previous damage, and neural pathways that appear to have developed sophisticated pain management protocols. Dr. Keleth, Vorth said quietly, his voice carrying undertones of awe, look at this. The holographic display showed a three-dimensional model of Marcus's skeletal system, rotating slowly to reveal the full extent of his medical history. Beyond the current fractures, the scan had identified evidence of dozens of previous breaks, tears, and trauma sites. What made the display truly remarkable was how each injury site showed signs of healing that had actually strengthened the surrounding bone structure. It's like his skeleton is upgrading itself, Vorth whispered. Marcus glanced at the display with casual interest. Oh cool, you can see where I broke my leg on Europa. That was a fun day. Who knew ice caves could be so unstable? Keleth stared at the human, then, at her readings, then, back at the human. In all her years of practicing medicine across the galaxy, she had never encountered anything quite like this. Species that could regenerate lost limbs, certainly. Beings whose biology allowed them to survive in hostile environments, absolutely. But she had never met a creature that seemed to treat catastrophic injury as a minor inconvenience and, then, somehow became stronger because of it. "Mr. Chen," she said finally, "I think we need to have a longer conversation about human physiology. And, perhaps about what you consider to be worse than 17 broken bones." Marcus grinned, and, somehow that simple expression managed to convey both innocent friendliness and something approaching predatory satisfaction. "Well, Doc, we've got time. And, trust me, I've got stories." Dr. Kelletha's research laboratory had been transformed into something resembling a xenobiology crisis center. Every available scanner, analyzer, and diagnostic tool was focused on their human subject, who sat contentedly in the center of it all, sharing increasingly disturbing tales of human resilience while casually munching on what he called trail mix from his emergency supplies. "The thing about the acid pools on Titan's moon," Marcus was saying, gesturing with a handful of nuts and dried fruit, "is that they're not really acid in the traditional sense. More like a highly corrosive metallic compound that eats through most materials in about 30 seconds. Dr. Vortha's forearms had developed a persistent tremor. "And you fell into one of these pools?" "Well, not exactly fell," Marcus corrected. "More like got thrown by an unstable rock formation. The pool was only about waist deep, thank goodness, but the stuff immediately started eating through my environmental suit. Had maybe 15 seconds before it reached skin." Kelleth looked up from the genetic analysis she was conducting. The results were becoming more bizarre by the hour. "How did you escape?" "Oh, that's the fun part. Sarah, my research partner, she had to fish me out with a sample collection robot. Problem was, the acid had weakened my suit's integrity enough that when she pulled me up, the whole thing basically disintegrated. Left me with chemical burns over about 40% of my body surface." The laboratory's automated medical systems began emitting soft warning chimes as they processed this information. According to every medical database available to them, exposure of that magnitude should have resulted in immediate systemic shock and death within minutes. "The burns healed?" Vorth asked, though his harmonic undertone suggested he already dreaded the answer. Marcus rolled up his sleeves, revealing arms that showed faint, web-like patterns across the skin. "Took about 6 weeks. Left some interesting scarring, though. Sarah said it looked like lightning strikes." The medical team on the research station had never seen anything like it. Kelletha's optical sensors focused on the scarring patterns. Her scanners indicated that the damaged tissue had somehow developed increased resistance to chemical exposure. It was as if the human's body had learned from the trauma and adapted accordingly. "Mr. Chen," she said carefully, "our analysis is revealing some unusual characteristics about human physiology. Would you mind if I asked you some questions about your species' evolutionary history?" "Sure thing. Though I should mention I'm an archaeologist, not a biologist. My knowledge of evolution pretty much stops at survival of the fittest." Dr. Vorth activated a holographic interface displaying comparative evolutionary charts. "According to our preliminary research, humans evolved on a planet designated Earth, which appears to be a Class M world with standard gravity and atmospheric composition. Nothing in your environmental history suggests the kind of selective pressure that would produce your species' apparent resistance to catastrophic injury." Marcus paused in his snacking. "Well, Earth isn't exactly a peaceful place. I mean, it looks pretty from space, but the planet's been trying to kill everything on it for billions of years." "Explain," Kelleth said, her scientific curiosity overriding her medical concerns. "Where do I start?" Marcus settled back, apparently warming to the topic. "Volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, tsunamis, hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, droughts, ice ages. Plus all the fun biological stuff, diseases, parasites, predators that see humans as convenient snack food." He gestured casually. "My species spent most of its evolutionary history dealing with saber-toothed cats, cave bears, poisonous snakes, and other humans who wanted to take our stuff. We learned to be pretty tough pretty quickly." Vortha's research interface began displaying Earth's geological and biological history. The data that emerged was sobering. Dr. Kelleth, look at this. Their homeworld has experienced 5 major extinction events, dozens of ice ages, and shows evidence of catastrophic volcanic activity occurring regularly throughout the timeline. Plus smaller stuff, Marcus added helpfully. Forest fires, landslides, sinkholes. Oh, and the weather. You wouldn't believe some of the storms we get. I once got caught in a tornado while doing survey work in what used to be called Kansas. Wind speeds hit about 200 miles per hour. Kelitha's breathing apparatus cycled rapidly. You survived a 200-mile-per-hour wind event? Barely. Got picked up and thrown about a quarter mile. Landed in a cornfield, which was lucky. Corn's pretty soft compared to rocks. Still broke 3 ribs and dislocated my shoulder, but I walked away from it. The medical scanners beeped insistently, drawing Kelitha's attention back to the analysis. What she saw there challenged everything she thought she knew about biological systems. Marcus's bone structure wasn't just dense, it showed evidence of a distributed support network that seemed designed to handle extreme stress loads. His cardiovascular system included redundant pathways that could maintain function even with significant damage. Most remarkably, his neural system showed pain processing patterns that actually became more efficient when dealing with repeated trauma. Dr. Vorth, she said quietly, I think we need to contact the Galactic Medical Consortium immediately. Why? Marcus asked, apparently unconcerned. Is something wrong? Wrong? No, Mr. Chen. But I believe we may have discovered why your species achieved interstellar travel so quickly despite being relatively new to advanced technology. She gestured to the holographic displays surrounding them. Most species require thousands of years to develop the psychological and physiological resilience necessary for long-term space travel. The isolation, the equipment failures, the constant danger, it typically takes extensive genetic modification or cybernetic enhancement for biological entities to handle those stresses. Marcus shrugged. Space travel's not that bad. Sure, things break down sometimes, and there's always a chance your ship might explode or get hit by an asteroid. But it's not like we're doing it in wooden boats powered by wind. Wooden boats powered by wind? Vorth's translation matrix struggled with the concept. Old Earth technology. Humans used to cross vast oceans in ships made of wood, powered entirely by natural wind patterns. No navigation computers, no emergency beacons, no life support systems. Just humans, wood, canvas, and whatever food they could carry. Kelith felt her worldview shifting again. And they survived these journeys? Most of the time. Sometimes ships would disappear in storms, or get lost, or sink when they hit something. But humans kept building bigger boats and sailing farther. That's how we spread across our entire planet, actually. The medical displays updated with new information as Kelitha's analysis systems processed human historical data. The results painted a picture of a species that had spent its entire evolutionary history throwing itself into increasingly dangerous situations, somehow managing to not only survive but thrive in the process. Your species colonized hostile environments without life support? Vorth's harmonic undertones had shifted to something approaching disbelief. Well, we didn't know they were hostile at the time, Marcus said reasonably. The first humans to cross into Australia probably thought it looked pretty friendly. Until they met the wildlife, anyway. Wildlife? Oh, Australia's got some interesting animals. Venomous snakes, poisonous spiders, crocodiles, sharks, jellyfish that can kill you with a single sting. Plus about a dozen different species that are basically just living tanks with teeth. Kelitha's research systems began displaying Australian fauna. The catalogue of deadly creatures was staggering. And humans established permanent settlements in this environment? Sure. Took a while to figure out which things would kill you and which ones were just scary looking, but humans adapt pretty quickly. Plus, the climate's nice most of the year. Dr. Vorth had been quietly running comparative analyses while Marcus talked. Now he looked up with an expression that conveyed existential uncertainty. Dr. Kelith, according to my calculations, the average human child experiences more potentially lethal situations during normal development than most adult members of our species encounter in their entire lifetime. That sounds about right, Marcus agreed.
Human kids are basically tiny suicide machines.
They'll climb anything, eat anything, jump off anything, and stick their fingers into whatever looks interesting. It's amazing any of us survive to adulthood. But, you do survive, Kelleth said, beginning to understand something fundamental about human biology. And, each survival event makes you stronger. Pretty much. Though I should mention that modern humans have it easy compared to our ancestors. We've got emergency medical care, safety equipment, building codes. Humans from a few hundred years ago were seriously tough. They had to be. The laboratory's communication system chimed, indicating an incoming priority message. Dr. Vorth activated the interface, revealing the image of Admiral Thex, the Zephyrian fleet commander. Dr. Kelleth, the Admiral's gravelly voice filled the lab, I understand you're conducting medical analysis on the human survivor. How quickly can you complete your assessment? We're receiving some concerning reports from other human colonies. Kelleth exchanged glances with Marcus, who had perked up with interest. What sort of reports, Admiral? It appears that humans are volunteering for assignments that other species consider unsurvivable. Deep space exploration missions, high radiation research posts, planetary surveys in hostile environments. Our diplomatic corps is having difficulty understanding why an entire species seems to possess what can only be described as a death wish. Marcus laughed, causing both doctors to startle. Death wish? Admiral, I think you've got it backwards. Explain. Humans don't have a death wish. We have a life wish. We want to see what's out there, experience new things, push boundaries. The universe is this huge, amazing place full of incredible stuff, and we want to explore all of it. He stood up, apparently forgetting about his 17 broken bones. Sure, it's dangerous. Everything interesting is dangerous. But that's what makes it worth doing. Kelleth watched her medical scanners track Marcus's movement. Despite his injuries, his motor function showed no signs of impairment. Pain responses were minimal. Stress indicators remained at baseline levels. Mr. Chen, she said slowly, I think the Admiral has a point. Your species' behavior appears to be fundamentally different from every other sapient race we've encountered. How so? Dr. Vorth stepped forward, his forearms gesturing toward the massive array of data they had collected. Every other species requires extensive preparation, safety protocols, and risk mitigation before attempting dangerous activities. Humans appear to approach danger as if it were entertainment. Marcus considered this seriously. Well, when you put it that way, I guess we do seem a bit crazy. But, look at it from our perspective, we spent millions of years on a planet that was constantly trying to kill us. We learned that safety is an illusion, that the only way to really live is to accept risk and push forward anyway. He grinned. Besides, someone has to be the first to try new things. Might as well be us. Admiral Thex's image leaned forward. Dr. Kelleth, in your professional opinion, are humans psychologically stable? Kelleth looked at Marcus, then, at her medical data, then, back at Marcus. Admiral, I believe humans may represent something we've never encountered before, a species that has evolved not just to survive catastrophe, but to actively seek it out as a form of personal growth. And, the Admiral prompted. I think we're going to need to completely revise our understanding of what's possible for biological entities to accomplish. The human solution 3 days after Marcus Chen's arrival aboard the Harmony's Edge, Dr. Kelleth found herself presenting her findings to an emergency session of the Galactic Medical Consortium's Xenobiology Council. The holographic chamber buzzed with representatives from dozens of species, all focused on the impossible data streaming across their shared interfaces. Marcus sat quietly in the center of the assembly, looking remarkably comfortable despite being the subject of intense scientific scrutiny. His 17 broken bones were healing with a speed that defied medical explanation, and he had declined all offers of advanced treatment beyond basic pain management, which he claimed he didn't really need anyway. Honored colleagues, Dr. Kelleth began, her voice carrying across the vast chamber, what we have discovered about human physiology challenges our fundamental understanding of biological limitations. The crystalline representative from the Vex Collective chimed softly. Dr. Kelleth, your preliminary reports suggest that humans routinely survive trauma that would be lethal to most known species. How is this possible? The answer appears to lie in their evolutionary history, Kelleth replied, activating the holographic display.
Humans evolved on a planet that experienced constant catastrophic events.
Rather than developing avoidance behaviors, their species learned to adapt to and, eventually thrive in dangerous conditions.
Admiral Thex's gruff voice cut through the murmur of discussion.
Dr. Kelleth, that's all very interesting from a scientific perspective, but I have practical concerns.
Human colonies are requesting permission to establish settlements in sectors we've classified as unsurvivable.
They want to build research stations inside asteroid fields, mining operations near unstable stars, and exploration outposts on planets with toxic atmospheres. And, asked the Altarian delegate, her melodic voice carrying hints of confusion.
And, they're volunteering to go there themselves. No robotics, no remote operation.
They want to physically travel to these locations and work there directly.
Dr.
Vorth, who had been quietly monitoring the session's biometric feeds, suddenly looked up with alarm.
Admiral, we may have a more immediate problem.
Every eye in the chamber focused on him.
Explain. I've been tracking communication traffic from human colonies over the past 72 hours. Word about Mr. Chen's medical evaluation has apparently spread through their information networks.
Marcus perked up with interest.
What kind of communication traffic?
Applications, Vorth said, his harmonic undertone shifting to something approaching panic. Thousands of applications from humans requesting assignments to what they're calling extreme duty postings.
Deep space exploration, first contact missions, experimental technology testing, planetary formation research.
The chamber fell silent. Finally, the Braxton representative spoke, his massive form leaning forward with concern.
Are you telling us that learning about dangerous opportunities has made humans more eager to pursue them? That's exactly what I'm telling you, Vorth confirmed. The more dangerous the assignment, the more applications we're receiving.
Marcus laughed, causing several delegates to recoil instinctively.
That sounds about right.
Humans love a challenge.
This is precisely what concerns us, Admiral Thex said.
Mr. Chen, your species appears to have a fundamentally different relationship with risk than any other sapient race we've encountered.
How do we integrate humans into galactic society when they actively seek out situations that other species consider unsurvivable? Marcus considered the question seriously. Admiral, maybe you're looking at this the wrong way. Elaborate. Well, you've got all these dangerous jobs that need doing, right? Exploration, research, first contact situations.
Jobs that are too risky for most species to handle.
Correct.
And, you've got a species that not only can handle those risks but actually enjoys them. Marcus stood up, his movement tracked by dozens of medical sensors that continued to register impossible readings.
Seems to me like you've got a solution, not a problem. The Vex Collective's representative chimed again. You're suggesting that humans could serve as specialized personnel for high-risk operations? Why not? Every species has its strengths, right?
The Zephyrians are excellent diplomats, the Altarians are gifted artists, the Braxtons are skilled engineers.
Humans are apparently good at surviving things that shouldn't be survivable.
Dr. Kelleth found herself nodding slowly.
It's not an unreasonable proposition.
Human physiology appears to be uniquely adapted for extreme stress situations.
But, what about safety protocols? The Altarian delegate asked. Established risk management procedures? The entire framework of galactic safety standards? Marcus shrugged. Keep all that for species that need it.
But, maybe create some special classifications for humans who want to push boundaries.
Admiral Thex's expression was difficult to read. You're proposing that we essentially allow humans to ignore safety regulations?
Not ignore them, Marcus corrected.
Modify them. Base them on human capabilities instead of lowest common denominator safety standards.
Dr. Vorth had been running calculations while the discussion continued. Now he looked up with an expression of mixed excitement and terror.
Colleagues, I've been modeling the potential impact of integrating human capabilities into our current exploration and research programs. And, prompted the Braxton representative. If humans can indeed operate safely in environments we consider lethal, we could accelerate our exploration timeline by approximately 300%. Missions that would take decades using current safety protocols could be completed in years.
The chamber erupted in excited discussion. Marcus waited patiently for the noise to die down before speaking again. "There's one more thing you should probably know about humans," he said, his casual tone somehow cutting through the chaos. Every delegate turned to face him.
"Which is?" Admiral Fex asked warily.
"We're really good at teaching other people to survive impossible situations." Dr. Kelleth felt her breathing apparatus flutter with a mixture of excitement and apprehension.
"Explain."
"It's called training," Marcus said simply. "Humans have been teaching each other to handle dangerous situations for thousands of years. Military training, emergency response, extreme sports instruction. We've gotten pretty good at taking people who would normally avoid risk and turning them into people who can handle it effectively." "You're suggesting that humans could train other species to operate in high-risk environments?" the Vex Collective asked.
"Sure.
I mean, you'd never be as naturally resilient as humans, but you could probably learn to handle a lot more than you think you can." The implications of this statement rippled through the chamber like a wave. Dr. Kelleth found herself imagining Zephyrian diplomats conducting first-contact missions in hostile environments, Altarian artists creating works inspired by cosmic phenomena they could actually visit, Braxton engineers building structures in previously inaccessible locations.
"Mr. Chen," Admiral Fex said slowly, "are you proposing that humans serve as some sort of extreme environment specialists for the Galactic Consortium?"
"Well, when you put it that way, it sounds pretty official," Marcus replied.
"But, yeah, essentially.
We're good at this stuff, you need this stuff done, and we enjoy doing this stuff."
"Seems like a natural fit." Dr. Kelleth activated her recording systems. "Mr. Chen, for the record, could you provide some specific examples of the kind of training humans might be able to offer?"
"Sure. Survival training, emergency medical response, equipment improvisation, stress management, crisis decision-making. Humans have developed techniques for operating effectively in zero-gravity environments, toxic atmospheres, extreme temperatures, high radiation fields, and situations involving hostile life forms."
He paused thoughtfully. "Plus, we're really good at jerry-rigging solutions when equipment fails."
Human engineers can build functional life support systems out of spare parts and duct tape.
"Duct tape?" Dr. Vorth asked. "Multipurpose adhesive material. Every human knows at least 50 different uses for it. It's basically the foundation of human technology."
The Braxton representative leaned forward with interest.
"This duct tape, it can repair life support systems?" "Among other things."
During the early days of human space exploration, duct tape literally saved lives on multiple occasions.
The Apollo 13 mission used it to jerry-rig air filtration systems. The International Space Station kept emergency supplies for decades.
Dr. Kelleth found herself making rapid notes. The more she learned about human capabilities, the more she realized that the Galactic Consortium had been approaching exploration and research from an unnecessarily cautious perspective.
"Admiral," she said suddenly, "I recommend we establish a new department within the consortium.
A human integration division, specifically designed to evaluate how human capabilities can enhance our exploration and research programs. And I volunteer to head the medical oversight for that program," Dr. Vorth added, his harmonic undertones indicating excitement.
"The research opportunities alone would be unprecedented." Admiral Fex considered the proposal carefully. "Mr. Chen, if we were to establish such a program, would humans be interested in participating?" Marcus grinned.
"Admiral, you'd have more volunteers than you'd know what to do with.
Humans have been dreaming about exploring the galaxy for centuries. You're offering us the chance to actually do it. Even knowing the risks involved?" "Especially knowing the risks involved."
The chamber fell quiet as delegates processed this information.
Finally, the Altarian representative spoke. "Dr. Kelleth, in your professional opinion, is this proposal feasible?"
"Based on our analysis of Mr. Chen's physiology and human historical data, I believe humans represent a unique opportunity to expand the boundaries of what we consider possible.
However, I recommend extensive testing and gradual integration." Agreed, Admiral Thex said. Mr. Chen, would you be willing to participate in a pilot program? Help us develop protocols for human integration into high-risk operations? Absolutely. Though I should mention, I'm just one human. We're not all exactly the same.
Dr. Vorth looked up from his interface with surprise. Mr. Chen, according to our analysis, your resilience levels appear to be fairly typical for your species.
That's what I figured. I'm definitely not the toughest human around.
You should meet my friend Sarah, she's the one who pulled me out of that acid pool. Now she's really something special. The chamber erupted in discussion again, but this time the tone was different. Where before there had been concern and uncertainty, now there was excitement and possibility. Dr. Kelleth watched Marcus sitting calmly in the center of it all, apparently unfazed by the fact that he had just revolutionized galactic exploration policy while casually nursing 17 broken bones. Mr. Chen, she said quietly, I believe you may have just changed the course of galactic history. Marcus shrugged, wincing slightly as the motion irritated his cracked ribs.
Doc, humans have been changing history since we figured out how to make fire. It's kind of what we do. And the broken bones? Oh, those? They'll heal. They always do.
As the session continued around them, Dr. Kelleth found herself wondering what other impossible things humans considered routine. Based on the past 3 days, she suspected she was about to find out. The universe, it seemed, was about to become a much more interesting place.